Hey, it's the second episode of this Brett Code show. I'm actually the third one. I don't know why I started with episode 0. It's very confusing. But I'm back. It's been a week. I feel like it's been a big week, an exciting week in terms of development and what I've been developing. I think the camera's kind of funny. Let me change that. Okay, so wanted to share some things. Wanted to talk about a couple things and then go from there. I think that would be really fun. The first thing I just wanted to start this off with by saying is that I realize that I, at any given time, get excited about things and then try to do too many projects at one time. So I'll jump into that and jump into this and I'm interested in Rust and TypeScript and this, and it's fun and it's exciting, but it can be exhausting at times, and it can be hard to focus on working on something and getting it done. So I have been trying to devise some systems to help with that. And I thought I'd show Trello, because I use that for technical learning, which I made a video about. And this is like anytime something is shared with me or comes up that seems like it's of interest, I put it in here. So the ideas column has just a ton of stuff, right? Like all the JavaScript frameworks, concepts, all that stuff goes into ideas, right? And I think it's like 400 ideas. There's so many things to learn. It's exhausting. But things I'm really focused on learning next go into up next. And then what I'm actively learning and doing stays in progress. So right now I'm working through this TypeScript course online. That's my main focus. Maybe I dabble with some other things and learning some other things, but this really helps me zoom in, and I can go back to this Trello board and say, okay, what am I learning right now when I take a half an hour each day to try to learn and study? Before it was the Pragmatic Programmer book, which is not, here, reading, getting things done, different things. So a reminder, it's better to do one thing at a time, have focus. I think the same way for projects. So this is something I've started using Trello for, which is pretty recently, trying to organize the projects I'm working on. So like I showed that Words program recently, right? And that's a Rust project called Words, spelled funny. And I did the work I wanted to do on it. I released version 1. So that is, released. It's on crates.io. So if we go to crates and type in Words, anyone can install this program. It's maybe not particularly useful to other people, but it's done. I learned a lot. It's covered by tests. There are things I could do to improve it. So I'm finished working on it for now. So what I did is I created a Trello called Words Improvements. And I have ideas in my notebook about ways to improve it. So maybe I'll revisit that. And then I have what's in progress, which is Projectbook, and this contribution that I made a PR for. I showed that in the video last week. It's to the Rust CLI book. It's taken a lot of time back and forth and getting feedback, so I'm just trying to, make that's like done. Like there's nothing I can do. It's not actionable, so that's why I'm working on Projectbook. And recently, I've started working on another project, which I'll talk more about in this episode, but just wanted to say it really helps to have one project at a time. And for me, it really helps to have a visual display of what is on my mind and have it mapped out. And then I can go and look at this and say, okay, what am I focused on now? I want to finish Projectbook. And I finished some other things. I haven't put them all in here over the last couple of years. That would be kind of fun. But it's nice because then you can see what you've finished. I can go easily see what I want to work on, and I can kind of plot out what's most important next. And technically, this advanced RSpec series is in progress, and I've recorded some episodes and released it, but I really want to focus on that. I've got a lot of ideas about projects, games, and other things, right? Things from Projectbook, other ideas, and I put those in ideas, and I don't act upon them, aside from maybe capturing some thoughts, until I'm ready to actually work on the project. And maybe I'll work on a project and I won't finish it. and then maybe it'll end up in the graveyard. And that's totally acceptable and fine, right? But to me, it really helps to go and say, okay, I have one focus. Right now, that's Projectbook. Then it'll be this RSpec series, and so on. So one thing at a time. Very helpful. I wanted to share then a second part to that thought, which is Diana Kimball Berlin has to me, this famous classic blog post from 2014 called No More Forever Projects. I think about this blog post all the time. It is something I come back to and just absolutely unequivocally agree with. And in this short blog post, Diana lays out that she will no longer be working on forever projects. She's instead going to work on things that she can start and finish and then call done. And I really like that. This final sentence. These days, all my projects start as experiments. No forceful promises, no forever projects. Gravity seeps into the things that stick around. And that is my guiding light, is this idea of no more forever projects. Because as I get excited about things, I want to take them on, what I come to realize is that many projects are long-term commitments, right? If you want to build a web application, that's a long-term commitment to maintaining it, keeping it running, paying server costs. Even if you just want to have a website with a custom domain, right? The forever project there is buying and paying for that domain for your life. And that's something to take seriously. Like, sure, the project can go away and you can shut it down, but until you shut it down, it's ostensibly going on forever. And so that's just something to be aware of, and it's something I really think about. So the cool thing is you maybe have other projects that are less forever, right? Like if you write a book and publish a book, it's done. You have an artifact. I think of those projects as artifactal projects, and I want to try to prioritize those projects. So like maintaining a blog or maintaining a YouTube channel and having to ride the content wave and consistently put content out, that's a forever project. And that's how people get burnt out. But having a project where you start it, work on it, finish it, release it, call it done, and it's something that you can say is like packaged up, and you can say, here, this is the book, this is the game, this is the season of screencast videos, whatever, right? That's an artifactal project. It's not forever. So I really like this. I've been trying to think about ways to make my projects less artifactal. So like Projectbook, or make my projects more artifactal, less forever projects. So Projectbook is an artifactal project. It will be done, and I can add to it, but I don't have to, right? I think that's the beauty of it. I can fix typos or add new projects, but for all intents and purposes, it's done and on the web. When it comes to this screencasts, what I want to do is make screencasts and release them, like record them in batches. So right now, my focus is on doing a series on RSpec. Then what I want to do is and I can actually show you that because I have a Trello board for that, is I line them out. Each lane is a series. So right now, I'm doing the Brett Code Show, and I'm doing this advanced RSpec series. And I'm going to I don't know if I'll do all of these, but I'll do most of them. And that will sort of wrap up what I have to say on RSpec. And there's about 10 videos in there. So I want to record all those. That's a project, have it be done. And then that exists on YouTube. The series is done. There's not this expectation of like, oh yeah, I'll just keep making RSpec videos forever, because there's only so much to say about RSpec. And then I'll move on to other things. Like I have a series idea called Beyond the Code, which mirrors some recent videos, like the difference between average and great developers and do your best work. I want to talk about the things related to software development that are the human side and interacting, collaborating with people, and those sorts of things. I've got a series of videos I want to do on Toolkit, so like all the different tools and apps and programs I use. Series on Git, Advanced Ruby, Rails. I want to do a series on GraphQL on Rails and building GraphQL APIs. So yeah, to me it really helps it where it's like I can work on series or seasons of screencasts on my YouTube channel here and start them, finish them, release them, and then I can take breaks between seasons, or I can schedule them to be released where I have a break myself from recording them and I can keep it consistent, but also I could stop at any time and take a pause or take a break. So no more forever projects. Love this. It's so helpful. And when you do take on a forever project like this Brett Code show, it is like, I don't have an end in sight. It's just something I'm starting. I want to keep it casual. I want to keep the expectations for myself low. I don't want to say it'll be every week, or I don't want to say I'll do it until the sun explodes. But, I want to just share what I'm working on, and that's fun, and expectations are low there. So, if you're building something, you want to be a good steward of it, whether it's a website, a web app, a mobile app, a gem, an open source library. You want to be a good steward and shepherd it forward and have it be available and have it be archived. It's so things can just disappear from the web, and that can be really tough for people who might use it or rely on it. So I want to be a good steward and be really intentional about my forever projects, keep those to a minimum, and instead focus on things that I can start and finish. So that's it for forever projects. Woo! The next thing I want to just share is I switched to Firefox, and that's been going well. I was using Safari because it was the default browser on the iPhone, which I use an iPhone, but now you can change the default browser. You might have been able to do that for years, I don't know. But I realized, okay, great, I can have that. I like Firefox, it's more open. I like that it's not Chrome, and I like that it's not Chrome's rendering engine, because as Brave and Edge and Chrome offshoots that use Chromium all use that rendering engine, it starts to be like the web is basically not this open place, but instead is like you access it through Chrome. And I want to fight against that. And so I think Safari's WebKit or Firefox's Gecko rendering engine is just like sending traffic to people with a different browser other than Chrome as valuable. I like the Firefox dev tools. I like the experience of using it. So so far so good on Firefox. Pleased with that. I have been a viewer of the channel, Patrick. I think Patrick's username on YouTube is Wendo. Patrick and I were chatting, and Patrick recommended this thing called conventional commits, which is a way to approach and writing Git commits. It's this big specification, but really what it's saying is that you organize your commits with a prefix that describes what you're doing. Is it a feature? Is it a chore? Is it a fix? Is it a doc change? That kind of thing. So I started using it, and it's feeling really good. It creates this history of commits that I think is pretty readable and looks nice. Like, here's some changes I made where you see chores. I had some meta things where I was adjusting parts of a project, that kind of thing. And I really dig it. I think it's useful. At first I was like, I don't want to change. I've been writing commits a certain way for a long time, and this seems difficult. But as I've seen more open source projects do it and understand the benefits of it, so far so good. So I'm not sure I'm not sure. It's still new, so I don't have a solidified opinion, but so far I like it. If I continue to like it, it'd be something cool to do a dedicated video on. I wanted to share that. There's this gem called GraphQL-Docs in the Ruby world that is a Ruby gem you can add that takes a GraphQL schema and generates a website of documentation for it. It's a really great gem that we use at work, and I noticed that the previous maintainer had publicly archived. Garen, the previous maintainer, had it as a public archive, so Garen wasn't intending to actively maintain the project. And totally fine, totally understandable. Open source is so challenging in that, a lot of it is this free labor done by people, and companies who are making profits and running a business are relying upon and utilizing all this free work and free labor. And it can be really exhausting to be an open source maintainer and feel like you're just, being exploited in a certain way. And so Garen wasn't maintaining it anymore, but it's kind of atrophying. Certain dependencies are falling behind, and there are security vulnerabilities, and there are some changes that I've wanted to make to this. So I messaged Garen on Twitter, and we were able to talk, and they were really awesome, and let me take over the gem. So now I'm maintaining the GraphQL-docs gem, and so far so good. I've addressed a deprecation warning, just getting things established and set up, lots of like housekeeping type things for the gem, and but yeah, that was like one of the cool things about open source though, is like if someone does burn out, the ownership can change or transfer, and the community can take it over and keep it moving forward. And I think for as long as something is useful, then for someone to continue to maintain it is valuable. So that's like a new project that I'm taking on that I should put in my projects list, and have like some intentional efforts to work on it. It's currently version 3.0.1. I'm going to work on version 4 with dark mode styles and a couple other improvements and adjustments. So that's been a cool new project that is like a personal project, but will be utilized at my day job, and that's kind of fun and useful. That's like an important separation where it's like when I'm doing work for my day job, that's work that's owned by work, but when I'm doing this work, this is my work and I own it, and I like that. I think that's a helpful separation to have. So that is GraphQL-docs gem. If you have a GraphQL API that you build in Ruby, it's very useful. Okay. What else? I wanted to share Projectbook updates because that's what I've been working on, which I've shared every episode of this show so far. But it's been going really well. Had our first contributor. I don't know how to pronounce this person's name, but Yinda. I think Yinda's right. Yinda submitted pull requests for improved alt text on images and improved some clarity with some of the writing, and gave feedback. So thank you, Yinda. Really appreciate it, making this better, and that was super cool to see the first contribution to the project. I have been working on, general graphical apps got really expanded, and I tried to add as much as I could to those. Added some new projects like a window manager and an app launcher, kind of like Alfred. But I've really been working on games, and that's been fun. That's like the final section. Oh yeah, the big milestone is it passed over 100 projects. So I had to make a new cover for the project, and that was cool. So yeah, I've been like, here's a mock-up of what tic-tac-toe could look like in case someone doesn't know what that is. Just trying to really flesh out these games. I'm realizing games are tough to explain in writing all the rules, so I'm trying to really rely on references to other games and videos and those types of things. And I've started to include like mock-ups of games I've made, which I'll get to in a second. But like, here's like, if you build a visual novel, here's this like fake visual novel that I coded up like a year ago, and using some free assets and stuff. So, and like wrote my own little scripting language that has certain events. And so yeah, this is getting there. Over 100 projects, like I said. It's not quite version 1.0 yet, but it's getting close. And I'm still having fun. I'd say I'm ready to launch it. And I think launching it will be really interesting. I'm going to share it on Hacker News. I'm going to share it on Product Hunt. I don't know if that's super appropriate about Product Hunt, but we'll see. And then I'll share it on different Reddits. So Reddit, Hacker News, Product Hunt. I'm not sure where else, but I hope it's helpful. I've shared it with some friends too, and they've seemed excited about it. So that makes me feel like, okay, I should share this wider. Projectbook. Going well. Almost done with it. Definitely would appreciate any feedback, thoughts, fixes, etc. And hope you find it helpful. For me, as I'm learning Rust and continuing to like expand my knowledge of TypeScript, there are definitely some things I want to build. Like, I'm excited personally about Recipe Hub, having an open source app for managing my recipes. I think that would be super cool. I'm really excited about the story publishing platform, Story Hub, because I have prose, fiction and poetry and stuff that I've written, And like I put it on my website, I put it on Wattpad, but I think it would be cool to put it on an open source platform that's run by the community. So I've got some things I'm excited about and looking forward to building and learning and experimenting with. That's Projectbook. I wanted to show one more thing, which is kind of fun, which is related to the games section of Projectbook. By just sharing some older, not super old. I have super old games too, like that were written in Adobe's ActionScript 3 for Flash and like Java, things I can't get running easily, but I want to try to get like a good archive of my older game projects too. But around a year ago, I was really excited about making games, and then I kind of like worked on them, but then burned myself out a little using this programming language called Haxe, Haxe, and it's a really it's like C# kind of, and that's what it reminds me most of is C#. But it's a nice language, and I had worked on a couple projects that I wanted to show, so I have to run it with sudo, which is kind of weird and annoying, but this is this project called Mimeo, which Mimeo is like a mimeograph machine, makes copies. So I thought, I'll call this project Mimeo, and that will be like, my the name for this. Let me get back out of here. So there is, I have to use my keyboard. I thought I could use a controller, but that's not working. So you get to the launch screen, and there's all these games. Slither, which is a snake clone. Quick Draw, which is rock, paper, scissors. Some other things. So I thought I'd show that off and show off another demo I made. And the cool thing about Haxe is that it's cross-platform, and you can deploy it to the web. So like whether you're on Linux, Mac, Windows, iOS, Android, or the web, it's like a solid, stable process for building and releasing for those platforms, which was really appealing to me. It seems like Rust isn't quite there for some of those platforms, but that kind of, I think Rust has similar promises. But here's a snake game I made called Slither. I want to make the snake have a cute face and actually draw an apple sprite, but like this has a lot going on in it, and that there's like the grid, and then there's the like update loop, and then eating the apple and then growing and having the tail follow the player, and as the snake gets longer, the snake moves faster, so it gets harder. So yeah, it's like even a game as simple as Snake has really a lot going on in it, and I think is a good candidate for a learning project. And then if the snake runs into itself, it's game over. Quick Draw, this isn't super polished, but you use the arrow keys, and the CPU like rolls a die that can be between 1 and 3, and that what it lands on, then it compares whether it's rock, paper, or scissors. Also, the scissors looks like a butterfly. So you can see we both drew scissors. It was a draw. I'm going to draw paper. Both drew paper, draw. I drew scissors. CPU drew rock, so the CPU won. So this could be polished and have more animation, but like the core of the game is there, and I think that's pretty interesting. This is kind of like a visual novel. This was like a early prototype where it's like text that's scripted. There's a little avatar, and it changes between who's speaking. Bub on the Run is this infinite runner where you play this little character named Bub, who all you do is jump, and then those platforms are randomly generated and placed. The longer you hold the jump button, the longer Bub jumps. And then there are those little boxes that appear, which make it more challenging. And your goal is to outrun your inner demons for as long as possible. And then it keeps track of your high score for how long it is, how long you've survived. So I'm having a good run right now. Sometimes it's you die right away. But I'd like to take this collection of games and publish them online and make them open source because they really fit into Projectbook and would be good for people to learn from if they're interested. There's also some other smaller game ideas I want to work on and finish too. Yeah, only one thing at a time, so I can't get ahead of myself. But wow, this is going really well. Usually it doesn't go well. And I have some music that a friend made that isn't being piped through to the recording. But yeah, games are fun because you get visuals, you get audio, you get interactions, you have UI design. So I lost. and that was my high score of 70 seconds. So that's Bub on the Run. Bullet Heck is like supposed to be a bullet hell shooter, but I haven't. That doesn't work. And then this is the most polished game here, which is called Lonely Paddle, which is Pong, like single player Pong. So you have a field and you hit the smiley faces to get points, and then you move your paddle. And I tried to really polish up the animation with like tweening and the objects getting bigger and reacting to being hit. And then that star does something. I forget what the star does. This could be made more fun by like as score increases, the ball goes faster, or that sort of thing. But yeah, Lonely Paddle is probably the most finished game in this Mimeo collection, and like I don't know if it's fun. Like I don't know if anyone gives a darn about it, but I had fun. Oh, the star's just worth a lot of points. Oh no, the star spawns multiple balls. So that's it gets harder is when is when a second ball spawns. There's multi-ball support. So that's what that does. It's been a while since I played this. Yeah, so that second ball spawn, and then it gets a little bonkers then. So that's Mimeo. Would love to make that open source. And then I had this game I was working on called Elysian, which is a turn-based JRPG in the vein of like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. Those are my favorite games. I love turn-based JRPGs and Pokemon and all of those. So especially growing up, I wish I had more time. It feels like I don't have time to play those long RPGs, but I loved them as a kid. So I always, whenever I want to make games, I always think about making those kinds of games. And this is a game that like got like decently far enough along that you could like load the game, save it, all that stuff. So you play as this blue character, and then there's not random combat, but like on enemies on the field will come after you. There's attacking and defending. The character Akino has a health bar, and you can run around the field. There's collision detection on the field, like I can't run into those trees. There are NPCs you can talk to, and like what enemies might appear change based upon, like you don't know what they are when you're in the field, but it could be something different. Here's an NPC named Douglas. There is a menu. So there's like, you can make the game full screen, you can save, and then you can load the game and it picks up where you were, but the monsters respawn. There's so anyway, that's Elysian. It got like, yeah, this has a lot of systems going on between the combat and the field and the menus, and like I felt really good about the code, but I think I got a new job, or like my job changed at the time, and I just kind of burned out because I was really working a lot on this for a while. Maybe there's something to salvage. The art is obviously placeholder in a lot of places, but oh, here's a bug where it's not working. That's a good note to end on. So those are some games that I've worked on. I think it'd be fun to make them open source, and well, no, there's actually one more. There's always one more thing. Sorry. So I was thinking it would be fun to make this thing called a visual novel engine. If you don't know what visual novels are, they're like books in game form where you have pictures, but it's mostly just text and dialogue that's rendered. And sometimes there's choices and interactions. So I showed that scripting language earlier in Projectbook, and here's the game running. So we find ourselves witnessing a conversation between two friends. And this is the same text from Mimeo, but I just put in like these random anime avatars that I found online on Itch for free. So thank you to those artists who make free assets. So you click and proceed through, and then it changes the person who's talking. There's screen flash and screen shake, and then transitions to another scene with a different background or whatever. So that was a really fun, very rough demo that I think maybe there's some potential there to make something good. I thought a cross-platform visual novel tool would be really great because people could make them and you could release it on Android, iOS, desktops, or even the web. So I think that would be preferable to have this like compiled binary that you can deploy rather than like Python or Ruby, because RenPy is like RenPy, I guess is probably what it is. Is like the biggest visual novel engine, but it's uses Python and it doesn't really compile down as far as I'm aware. Like you can target different platforms, but I don't know, it just seems challenging. So I was thinking it'd be cool if you had like a scripting language and something that compiles to cross-platform binary. So anyway, I don't know if I'll ever make a bigger visual novel engine, but it's a cool idea. I think visual novels are a cool genre, and I'd like to make some like weird experimental visual novels. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching and following along. If you can follow me on Twitter, I'm Brett_codes. That's really helpful just because I post updates and share my projects there, and that would be really wonderful. And coming up, I've got a video on TDD with Rust. I've got a video on RSpec example groups recorded, and I'm going to work on recording more videos on some advanced RSpec topics. So those are things to look forward to. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.